All right, so let's talk about taxes. This is not the most exciting topic, except for the fact that if you do a good job, you get this set up early on, you will be loving tax filing time for a little while in your business because you can really get a lot of tax breaks because of having a Mary Kay business. So while this isn't exciting, it is really crucial and it's really great information. So if you can pull up the document that you received about the consultant worksheet, this is a program or a company called Accounting Unlimited, and they are awesome people. They work with hundreds of Mary Kay consultants and directors around the country. And so they know Mary Kay in and out. And they do tax returns. So you can send them your things and they are wonderful and they'll do it for you. Or you can just benefit from their information and use another accountant if you prefer. But they are good. And so if you go to accountingunlimited.com, you can find a lot of forms and worksheets, and they do workshops to really help people understand the tax aspects, because that can be a very confusing area for a lot of women, especially because we didn't come into Mary Kay necessarily as entrepreneurs, understanding all of that. So definitely check that out. But this document can help you get organized enough to get started. And I find that it's super important just to make sure that you have the basic organization in place. If you don't start with organization, you get behind and then you get overwhelmed. So take an hour in this next week and just set yourself down and make yourself get organized. And here's what you want to do. Number one, you want a place that you can keep your receipts. So any single purchase or receipt you have for your Mary Kay business, you need to keep. You're either going to keep them in a file folder or you're going to scan them into the computer and keep them online, but you need a paper record of all expenses that you incur for anything Mary Kay related. And we're going to talk about what all those could potentially be, but just start by knowing I need a place to keep receipts. Secondly, you need an area that is your Mary Kay office. It doesn't have to be an exact office. It could be like mine is a closet. This is a very big closet in my home with 2 little girls. It's the best scenario for me to be able to get work done and to keep my stuff from getting messed up. At one point, I had my office sharing our second guest room, sharing the storage room, and all when we had a 2-bedroom apartment we lived in. I've had a full office that was in the center of our home. So it doesn't matter as long as you have a space that's going to be where your Mary Kay hub is, where your papers can be, where your stuff can go, your profiles, all of that. Ideally, if it can be in a room that is not a bedroom or a kitchen or a bathroom, that's ideal because you're going to get the most space to write off on your taxes. But do what you have to do. And if it's, a portion of a guest room, that's okay. I am not a tax accountant. I am not going to be the one to teach you all the ins and outs of measuring and all of that. Go to Accounting Unlimited and get their resources to learn those things. But you will be able to measure the space that your Mary Kay office is using, as well as storage. If you have products that you're storing in your home, you get to write that area off too. Why does it matter? Why do we care? Because the portion of your home that your Mary Kay business is taking up is the portion of your utilities, mortgage or rent, and those bills that you get to write off on your taxes. So the heat that you would run anyway, the electric that you would be paying for anyway, all those things start to become portions of tax deductions just because you have a business running from your home. So it's really awesome. And the 2 biggest tax deductions you'll have is your home and your car. So we're going to talk about what to keep for that. The main thing is keeping all the numbers and then having a way to add those numbers up at the end of the year to turn in with your taxes. So find your Mary Kay space, get organized, decide how you're going to keep your receipts, and that's kind of where you get started with. So grab the Accounting Unlimited sheet and let me take you through these different topics and just hit a few highlights. You'll see a bunch of, lines and then names. Those are all different things that you want to keep track of your expenses for. So they're different categories. You'll see beginning inventory, section 1 purchases, closing inventory, advertising, dry cleaning, all of that. So anytime you have an expense that covers any of these areas, keep the receipt. And you're going to tally up all the expenses you had for weekly meeting fees, for example, and you'll add that up and boom, I spent this much this year on my weekly meeting fees, and that money is going to be taken away from your taxable income. So I will tell you, Mary Kay consultants early on do not owe income taxes for your Mary Kay business. Until you're driving a free car, you do not have to worry about setting money aside for your Mary Kay business. More, you can get excited about all the money you're going to get back because you had a Mary Kay business and it decreased your taxable income. It is a good thing. Once you get to that point where you're driving a free car and you have a really big business going on, then we'll talk about income tax that you might owe, and that's when that happens. So just make a mental note. You're good to go until then. So there are 4 categories that are on this sheet that you can actually combine into one, because there's 4 things that you have to know that are all contained in the packing slips you get from your Mary Kay orders. So when you receive a box from Mary Kay, even your starter kit, there's a white piece of paper in there that's the packing slip, and you need that, but it's going to have 4 pieces of information that you will need for taxes that you can compile into one. So if you'll take a look at the sheet and the 3rd line down, section 1 purchases, star that. Then about halfway down, you'll see on this sheet, it says sales tax paid, star that. And then 2/3 of the way down, freight expense and section 2. Freight expense and section 2. Those 4 things, star those, and you can put that in one folder called packing slips. So when you get an order in, if you have a few boxes, pull those pages, staple them together, put them in your file cabinet or in your little filing box, and you're just going to keep all the packing slips from your orders. Make sure that you staple them so you can see that all of those papers go with one order and you're not thinking you had 4 different orders if it's 4 pages. But those papers, put them together, staple them for one order, and you've got all of that information in one place. Additionally, as I mentioned, your vehicle is going to be one of your largest tax deductions. And so towards the bottom of this page, you'll see vehicle expenses, total vehicle miles, total Mary Kay miles. The way that you know what that is when you got your orientation information for Mary Kay. When we met, I told you, write down the odometer reading on your car. How many miles are on your car right now? That is your starting miles for your Mary Kay business. And then from that point, you keep track of any time you drive for a Mary Kay purpose. So if it's a delivery, a meeting, a facial, a training, a drop-off, whatever it may be, if you're doing Mary Kay work, you're going to keep track of the date, how many miles you drove, and what you were doing. And as long as you have the date, the total number of miles, and what you were doing, you are good. I prefer to use Mileage IQ. Mileage IQ is an app that tracks when you go places, and then you can go in and just tell it what you were doing. And so you can delete out the trips that were not Mary Kay related, and you just save the ones that were, and it'll tell you drove 100 miles this month. It's really handy. I have a really bad habit when I tried to write it in a notebook of forgetting, and I get to my location and be like, oh, I forgot to write my starting mileage. I don't know, and have to go online and Google it, and it was just a pain. So for me, Mileage IQ is always tracking me. And then I just delete the ones that weren't Mary Kay and I save the ones that were. So that may be something to consider if you're like me, who's forgetful. But as far as Mary Kay miles, you can count the trip if you were obviously doing Mary Kay work, or say you were going to work, but you also had a delivery to make. On the way to work, you're going to be paid for that job, and so that would not count. You could not save those miles. But if after work you clock out, you're done with your job, and you kind of turn on your Mary Kay at that point, and you do your delivery on the way home, or you meet someone in the parking lot and then drive home from there, you can count the second half of your trip as a Mary Kay purpose because you were no longer employed at that point. You were, moving on with your life. So the trip home, that could count. Or if you're having a play date with friends and you're going to drop off some mascara to her while you go, that trip, because it was a free thing that you weren't being paid for, you can do the whole trip as a Mary Kay tax deduction. If you go to the grocery store, if you have to buy Mary Kay stuff while you're there, as long as you purchase it out of your separate bank account, that's for your Mary Kay stuff, and you're not buying it on your personal funds, you can write that trip off as a Mary Kay round trip. So you can get a lot of mileage for your business while you're doing life, and you want to keep track of those miles as well as any receipts for vehicle expenses. That's gas, oil changes, repairs, and this would be on the vehicle that you use for your Mary Kay business. I find most people kind of have their car that they drive. If you switch a lot, you would need to keep records for the separate vehicles separately. So if you do share a lot, you may consider using one car as your Mary Kay car. But keep all of those expenses and keep those miles because it is money in your pocket at tax time. And then your home, that is the last one. And so like we talked about, you're going to have your Mary Kay hub of, work headquarters in your home. So you can measure that area and deduct that. And because of that, you'll need to keep your bills for your utilities, your taxes that you're paying for your home, phone, internet, all of that kind of stuff. Just keep those bills because all of that becomes tax deductible, which is awesome and really good. So take a look at this sheet. Go ahead and get a place to keep the receipts for all of these categories. I recommend that you keep them filed separately. So all of your postage receipts would go in together. That way you have them and you can just add them up. All of your travel expense receipts, one folder, you can add them up, and it just makes your life easier when tax time comes around. So go ahead and take time this week. Get your bank account set up like you learned in the other video. Get your office organized. Just get yourself in place so that you can run forward and you're not playing catch up or feeling overwhelmed and behind when it comes to the money. Most likely you started this business for a monetary reason. Let's max that out. If you're confused, if you're having trouble getting it together, please wave the red flag and get some help from us in our office because we do not want you to miss out on this really crucial aspect of getting a business started. So let us know how you do.